The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. You picked up. Xiao Wan's voice came out trembling, as if she herself was surprised that someone had answered. Mei Xue, I know it's late, but I don't know what to do anymore. From the other side, silence. The silence of someone sleeping. The silence of someone completely awake who had chosen not to speak yet. He left me. Xiao Wan let the sentence fall into the darkness of the room. 5 years. 5 years, and today he said that I was too small for him. Too small, can you believe it? She laughed, a laugh that hurt. And the job. I lost my job today too. The manager said I didn't fit the company culture. What does that even mean? That I smile too much? That I don't wear expensive enough clothes? That my lunchbox smells like garlic and everyone knows I don't belong there? Pause. Mei Xue, are you sleeping? Say something. Another silence. And then a voice. Deep. Calm. A voice that wasn't Mei Xue's. I'm not sleeping. Xiao Wan froze. Who are you? Someone who picked up the phone at 3 in the morning. She looked at the screen. The number. She had dialed wrong. The last time she had saved Mei Xue's contact on her new phone, she had added 1 extra digit. A single digit. And now she was pouring her entire life out to a stranger in the middle of the night. I called the wrong number. Xiao Wan's voice came out thin as a thread. Sorry, I'll just... You can keep going. She blinked. What? You said you lost your job and your boyfriend on the same day. The voice was neutral, but there was something in it. A real attentiveness. That's a lot for one person to carry at 3 in the morning. Xiao Wan didn't know what to say. She should hang up. She clearly should hang up. But the exhaustion was too great, and the voice on the other end was strangely calm. Like those wordless songs that play when you need to cry, but don't want to make any noise. Why are you still awake? She asked, without meaning to. Work. At 3 in the morning? At 3 in the morning. At 4. At 5. A short pause. The time doesn't change much of what needs to get done. Xiao Wan lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. That sounds like a very lonely life. Silence again, but this time different. Maybe. And then, with a calm she didn't expect. Have you finished telling me what happened? And she told him. Everything. The manager with the crooked tie who had called her into his office at 5 in the afternoon. The ex-boyfriend who had texted her before she had even left the building, as if he had been waiting for the right moment to disappear too. Mama Chen, who she couldn't call because her mother would fall apart and summon 3 neighbors and make a tea that solved nothing but filled the kitchen with smoke and noise. The voice on the other end didn't interrupt once. By the 4th or 5th story, Xiao Wan's breathing had begun to slow. The sentences started losing their thread. And somewhere between the story of the manager and the story of the 5 years that had turned to dust, she simply fell asleep. With the phone against her face, the stranger's voice still on the other end. Ling Hao looked at his phone screen. She had fallen asleep. He could hear her breathing, steady, deep, the breathing of someone who had finally let go. He should have hung up. He didn't. He stayed there, with the report open on the other screen, the 4th quarter numbers waiting, the city below, blinking in silence, and the phone against his ear, listening to a stranger sleep, not quite understanding why this felt like the most important thing that had happened to him all week. Xiao Wan woke up with the sun on her face and the phone cold in her hand. The call had ended sometime in the middle of the night. The screen showed total duration, 2 hours and 17 minutes. For a number she didn't recognize. She sat up in bed. She read the number 3 times. No, it couldn't be. She had poured her entire life out, the job, the boyfriend, Mama Chen, and the lemongrass tea, to a complete stranger for more than 2 hours. The shame was so overwhelming that she stayed completely still for 40 seconds. Then she picked up her phone and searched the number. The result came up immediately, with a photo, a title, a full name. Ling Hao, CEO, Ling Group. Xiao Wan threw the phone onto the bed as if it had burned her. The Ling Group, the company with offices in the 3 tallest skyscrapers in Xinghai. The CEO who appeared in business news with an expression that seemed bored by his own wealth. That Ling Hao had spent more than 2 hours listening to her complain about the manager with the crooked tie. She lay there staring at the ceiling for 5 more minutes. Then she got up, showered, got dressed with more care than usual, and went to the Ling Group to apologize in person. because it was the right thing to do. And Xiao Wan always did the right thing, even when it hurt. The Ling Group's reception area was larger than the entire apartment where she lived with Mama Chen. The marble floor was white with golden veins. The female staff wore uniforms that probably cost more than a month's rent. Xiao Wan arrived with her fabric bag in hand and told the security guard, "I need to speak with Mr. Ling Hao. It's personal." The security guard looked at her, looked at the fabric bag, looked at her again. "Name?" "Xiao Wan." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I called him at 3 in the morning by mistake and spent 2 hours talking about my ex-boyfriend, and I need to apologize." The security guard blinked, grabbed his radio, murmured something, waited. 2 minutes later, Xiao Zhang, Ling Hao's personal secretary, came down in the elevator himself with an expression that mixed curiosity and professional terror. "You are Xiao Wan?" "I am." "Mr. Ling Hao." Xiao Zhang blinked twice. "Said for you to come up." The executive floor was as silent as a library. Everyone walked fast and spoke quietly, and Xiao Wan had the feeling she had walked into an aquarium where every fish knew how to swim except her. Ling Hao had his back to her when she walked in, looking out the window. The city below, small, organized, as if it belonged to him. He turned around. He was younger than she had imagined, and more present. The photos in the news hadn't captured that. The way he looked at a person as if he were reading the entire page at once. "You came to apologize." It wasn't a question. "Yes." Xiao Wan stood up straight. "I called the wrong number. It was never my intention to bother you, let alone for more than 2 hours. I'm sorry." Ling Hao was silent for a moment. "Did you sleep well?" She blinked. "What?" "After falling asleep on the phone, did you sleep well?" The question was so unexpected that she didn't know what to answer. She simply nodded slightly, as if her head had moved on its own. "Good." He walked back to his desk, sat down, opened a document. "Are you looking for a job?" Yes, but I'm not asking for. We have an opening for an administrative assistant in the logistics department. Temporary, 3 months." He didn't look up from the document. "Fill out the form with Xiao Zhang." "I can't accept that." Now he looked up. "Why?" "Because you're offering me a job out of pity, and I don't accept charity." The room went quiet. Ling Hao set his pen down on the desk. "I'm offering you a job because you woke up early, came here without being called, and apologized in person for something that was an accident." A pause. "That's not the profile of someone I feel sorry for. That's the profile of someone I would hire." Xiao Wan stood there looking at him. On the other side of the glass wall, Mei Xue walked past with a folder in her hand, and stopped, looked inside, saw Xiao Wan. Mei Xue's eyes went cold for exactly half a second before she smiled again and kept walking. But the calculation had already begun. Xiao Wan's first day at the Ling Group started with her arriving 15 minutes early, finding the wrong desk, sitting in a senior manager's seat, and being gently escorted away by Xiao Zhang, while the manager watched with an expression that said everything without saying anything. "It's fine," Xiao Zhang whispered, guiding her down the hallway. "Mr. Liu makes that face at everyone, including me, including Mr. Ling Hao sometimes. He makes that face at his own boss." Once. It was immediately regrettable. Xiao Wan settled into the right desk, smaller, in the corner, near the window that looked out over the parking lot instead of the city, and got to work. She was good at what she did. Always had been. Spreadsheets, reports, organizing data that nobody wanted to organize. In 3 hours, she had reorganized a supplier file that had been outdated for 8 months. Xiao Zhang looked at the screen, and then at her with the expression of someone who had just witnessed a minor miracle. "Look, you did all of this in 1 morning?" "I had time while the system was loading." Xiao Zhang went to show Ling Hao. Ling Hao said nothing, but he filed the information away. The problem happened on the afternoon of the 3rd day. Xiao Wan was delivering a report for Ling Hao to sign when the meeting with the Japanese partner started earlier than scheduled. She didn't know. She walked in through the wrong door, in the middle of a presentation, with the paper report in her hand and the fabric bag on her shoulder. Everyone in the room looked at her. Ling Hao looked at her. Xiao Wan stood frozen for exactly 2 seconds, the 2 longest seconds of her life, before turning around to leave. Wait. Ling Hao's voice cut through the air. She stopped. You can leave the report with Zhao Zheng. He's right outside. Simple, direct, no drama. But Mei Xue was in the meeting, as head of public relations with the international partners. And Mei Xue didn't let the opportunity pass. Ling Hao, she said with the soft voice of someone being reasonable, perhaps we should revisit the protocol for access to executive meetings. Certain new hires are still not familiar with the procedures. The room grew slightly tense. Mei Xue. Ling Hao's voice was quiet. Too quiet. I'm only suggesting that the meeting continues. He opened the next slide without looking at her. If you have suggestions about protocol, you can send them in writing to the HR department. Mei Xue smiled. Closed, tight, the kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. Xiao Wan left the room, handed the report to Xiao Zheng, and stood still in the hallway for a moment, her hands cold. You turned red, Xiao Zheng observed. Did I? From the neck up, completely. Thank you for the report on my blood circulation. Xiao Zheng opened his mouth to respond when Xiao Wan's phone went off. Loudly, with an opera song that Mama Chen had set as her ringtone without warning. Everyone on the floor looked. Xiao Wan answered in full panic mode. Mom, I'm working. Wan, did you eat? I saw on television that people who skip lunch get ulcers, and I made a broth here, but you can't come get it so I could bring it over. Is the doorman there friendly? Mom. Or I'll send it with a neighbor. Mrs. Zhou knows the way. Mom, don't send Mrs. Zhou. Don't send anyone. I'll eat here. Eat what? Those things from the restaurant? With food coloring? Mom, I'm only asking because I worry. Mom, Xiao Wan closed her eyes. I'll call you later. With a heart full of love, and a stomach full of food with no food coloring. She hung up. Silence on the floor. Xiao Zheng was clearly trying not to laugh. His mouth formed a straight line that trembled 3 times. Later, Ling Hao heard Xiao Zheng's account of the opera episode and Mama Chen's broth. He didn't laugh, but he stayed looking out the window for a slightly too long amount of time. That same afternoon, Mei Xue's assistant, the one who had let out an audible laugh when Xiao Wan walked into the wrong meeting, was called in for a review of her temporary contract. The contract was not renewed. Nobody said it was because of the laugh, but everyone understood. Ling Hao was not the kind of man who showed up without warning, so Xiao Wan didn't know how to interpret it when he was standing in the corporate cafeteria line on Tuesday. He, who always had lunch in meetings or in his office with food brought by Xiao Zheng, standing behind her with a tray and the expression of someone who was there for completely rational reasons. Do you eat here? She asked. Sometimes. He picked up a coffee. The supplier report was good. Thank you. Did you find the error in column L? I did, and I fixed it. And also the 3 errors in the adjacent columns that had probably been there since last year. Ling Hao took a sip of his coffee, said nothing. But there was something in the corner of his eyes. Not exactly a smile, but the place where a smile could have been. On Thursday, she stayed late, finishing a project. When she left, at 10 in the evening, it was raining. She looked at the rain, looked at the fabric bag that had no umbrella, and started calculating the distance to the bus stop. The black car pulled up in front of her. The window came down. Get in. Ling Hao was looking straight ahead, not at her. I can take the bus. It's raining. I've gotten wet before. Xiao Wan. He finally looked at her. Get in the car. She got in, because the rain was real and dignity has its practical limits. They rode in silence for most of the way, but it was a different silence than she had expected. Not uncomfortable, almost familiar. Like that silence from 3 in the morning, when he had listened to everything and hadn't said a single wrong thing. Do you always work this late? She asked. Always. That sounds just as lonely as it did at 3 in the morning. He didn't answer, but his jaw moved slightly, as if he were holding something back. The car stopped in front of her building. She got out, turned to say thank you, and saw that he was still looking straight ahead. He didn't drive away until she had walked into the building She only noticed that when she looked through the hallway window. Impossible. Impossible. The CEO of the Ling Group didn't wait for an administrative assistant to walk into her building. It had been a coincidence. The traffic? An imaginary red light. She went to sleep, convinced of that. On Friday, Mei Xue appeared at Xiao Wan's desk with a smile that Xiao Wan had known since school. The smile that came before trouble. "Wan, my dear," she said, sitting down in the chair beside her as if they were close friends. "I heard that Ling Hao gave you a ride yesterday." It was raining. Of course. Mei Xue tilted her head. "You know how people talk, right? They think you got close to him on purpose, that the phone call wasn't quite as accidental as it seemed." Xiao Wan looked at her. "Mei Xue, I'm on your side, Wan. That's why I'm warning you." She stood up and straightened her perfect blazer. "Stay away from him, for your own good." She walked away with her heels clicking against the marble. That afternoon, Xiao Wan heard from a colleague that Mei Xue had spread word around the floor that the new assistant had staged the wrong call to get close to the CEO. That it was all calculated, that women like her always found a way. Women like her. A housekeeper's daughter, fabric bag, garlic lunchbox. Xiao Wan closed the spreadsheet, took a deep breath, and opened a new one, because the work wasn't going to wait. And she wasn't about to give Mei Xue the satisfaction of watching her stop. But that night, on the bus ride home, she stared out the window and thought about the ride. About the silence that didn't weigh anything. About the way he had waited for her to go inside. No, she knew where that road led, and it never ended well for women like her. Mei Xue's voiceover, internal thought, whispered, "Ling Hao and I had 3 years. 3 years before he decided he didn't need anyone anymore. He thought he could simply place me in a corporate position and pretend the past never existed. I accepted it because patience is a strategy. But this girl, this Xiao Wan with her fabric bag and her naive eyes, she is going to undo everything I have built here. No, I won't allow it." Mei Xue was not careless. It took 2 weeks to put the plan together. She used the right contacts, the access she had as head of public relations, and a flash drive she had formatted herself. The accusation was simple. Xiao Wan had accessed confidential files from international contracts and leaked information to a competitor. There were access logs. There was an email, very well forged, sent from her corporate address. There was even an amount. A transfer received, an account in the name of Chen Wan. Xiao Wan's full name, which almost nobody knew. Mei Xue presented everything to the compliance director on a Monday morning, with the expression of someone doing something painful out of corporate duty. "I didn't want to believe it," she said, her eyes slightly wet. But the evidence speaks for itself. Xiao Wan was called to the HR room at 2 in the afternoon. She walked in not knowing what to expect and walked out 15 minutes later, knowing she was suspended, that there was an open investigation, and that she had, until the end of the week, to hand in her badge. She stood still in the hallway. People walked past. Some looked away, which is worse. Xiao Zhang appeared out of nowhere beside her with 2 cups of water and an expression that said he knew, that he didn't believe it, and that his hands were tied in a way that left him visibly distressed. "Xiao Zhang," she said, her voice calmer than she felt. "Where is Mr. Ling Hao?" "In a meeting. A long meeting. Xiao Zhang hesitated. He was informed. And another hesitation. The meeting continued. Something in Xiao Wan broke very quietly. Not in large, dramatic pieces. In small pieces, the kind that you only notice the next day, when you try to put them back together. She handed in her badge that afternoon, picked up her fabric bag. She rode the elevator down with 3 other people who made the hallway feel infinite. From the 27th floor, behind the glass, Ling Hao looked out at the parking lot. He saw her leave. He kept watching until the point where she turned the corner and disappeared. Then he turned back to the meeting and said, with a calm that left everyone present slightly uncomfortable, "I want all system access logs from the last 2 months on my desk by tomorrow morning, complete, including those of users with level 2 administrative access." Nobody asked why. That night, Mama Chen called Xiao Wan 4 times before she answered. When she finally picked up, she said she was fine. Mama Chen said she was watching a drama on television where the young woman also seemed fine at first, but then cried a lot, and that it worried her. Xiao Wan said that real life wasn't a television drama. Mama Chen said that sometimes it was, and that she had made broth. Xiao Wan ate the broth, cried a little, didn't say why. Mei Xue's voiceover, perfect. With her out of the way, Ling Hao will need to focus on the company, and when he is vulnerable, I will be there. I always knew how to wait. But what Mei Xue didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that Ling Hao had installed 3 years earlier a backup log system that the standard compliance department couldn't access. A system that he himself oversaw that recorded not only what users did, but from where, when, and with which device. And the email sent from Xiao Wan's address had been generated by a device that had never once set foot inside the Ling Group building. 3 days of suspension. Xiao Wan used the first to send out resumes, the second to try not to think, the third to buy the ticket. The city of Wujiang was 4 hours away by train. Her aunt had a small bakery there. It wasn't what she wanted, but it was far enough to start over without every tall building in Xinghai reminding her of something that had never truly been hers. She arrived at the airport. The train was on strike, so airport, with the wheeled suitcase that squeaked the entire way to the check-in counter. The line was long. She stood looking at the departures board. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She didn't answer. It vibrated again. No. 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 She was not going to answer. She was going to board, get to her aunt's bakery, learn how to make sandwich bread, and forget the Ling Group, the 27th floor, and the man who had stayed in his meeting while she handed in her badge. It vibrated a third time. She answered. Xiao Wan, don't board. The voice was Ling Hao's. Direct, no preamble. How do you know where I am? Xiao Zhang tracked your credit card when you bought the ticket. A very brief pause. I know that sounds invasive. It sounds very, very invasive. You're right. Another pause. Don't board. Mr. Ling Hao, she said, her voice steady. I was suspended for something I didn't do. You stayed in your meeting. I no longer have any reason to. The evidence against you is false. Silence. I have known that for 2 days. His voice shifted slightly, lower. I needed time to gather the counter-evidence in a way that couldn't be challenged. 2 days. Yes, for 2 days I thought you believed it. I know. And you said nothing. I know. And then, something she didn't expect. I was wrong about that. I should have told you sooner. The airport kept buzzing around her. Families with luggage, children running, the board changing gates. What happens now? She asked. Come and see. Xiao Wan arrived at the Ling Group 40 minutes later, still with the wheeled suitcase that squeaked through the entire elevator ride. The doors opened on the 27th floor. The entire floor was standing. Ling Hao was at the center, facing the board of directors, the partners, and Mei Xue, who for the first time since Xiao Wan had known her, looked slightly smaller than usual. Xiao Zhang. Ling Hao didn't turn around when she walked in, but he knew she was there. The report. Xiao Zhang, with the solemnity of a man who had been waiting for this moment, opened the tablet and began to read. The logs. The external device. The IP address from which the email had been sent. Mei Xue's apartment. The bank account in the name of Chen Wan, created 2 days before the accusation. The room went very quiet. Mei Xue opened her mouth. This was taken out of context. I can explain. Mei Xue. Ling Hao's voice was absolutely flat. You don't need to explain to me. You'll need to explain to the legal department, which has already been notified. He turned to the Japanese partners who were present. Yes, the same ones from the meeting where it all began. Xiao Wan is an employee of the Ling Group. Any attack on her reputation is, from this point forward, treated as an attack on the company. A 1-second pause. Is that clear to everyone? General silence. The kind that means yes without needing to be said. Mei Xue left the room with rigid shoulders and the expression of someone who is still calculating. Still. Always. Xiao Wan stood still with a wheeled suitcase beside her, not quite knowing what to do with her hands. Xiao Zhang appeared at her side and whispered, The suitcase can stay in the hallway closet, if you'd like. Thank you, Xiao Zhang. And welcome back. The floor was less interesting without you. Later, when the floor had emptied and only the two of them were left in the office, Ling Hao said, without looking at her, You left quickly. I thought you had believed it. I never believed it. You should have said that sooner. Yes. He finally looked at her. I should have. She nodded, filed it away, and said nothing more, because there were other things she hadn't said either, and the silence between them was full of exactly that kind of unsaid thing. It was Madame Ling who appeared. It wasn't common. Madame Ling rarely visited the office. She had, as she herself used to say, moved past the phase of supervising. But that morning, she walked onto the 27th floor in a beige silk coat, and the expression of someone coming to fulfill a duty that had been put off for far too long. She asked to see Xiao Wan, not Ling Hao. Xiao Wan. Xiao Wan was led to the smaller meeting room, the one with a window overlooking the internal garden. Madame Ling was already seated, hands on the table, a closed folder in front of her. Sit down, Wan. She used only the name, without the Xiao, as if she already knew. Xiao Wan sat down. Do you know the name Chen Jianming? Xiao Wan went still. Chen Jianming was the name of the father she had never known. The name that Mama Chen rarely spoke, always with a look that went somewhere far away before coming back. He was my father. Xiao Wan's voice came out small. He died when I was 2 years old. A workplace accident. Madame Ling opened the folder. It was not an accident. She pushed the first page across the table. Chen Jianming was a founding partner of the Ling Group, one of 3 men who built this company from the ground up, alongside my husband and another partner. In 1998, he was removed on charges of embezzlement. He lost his stake, his name was erased from the records, and 2 months later, he died in an accident that was never fully investigated. The silence in the room was different from any silence Xiao Wan had ever felt before. The accusation was false. Madame Ling continued, with the steady voice of someone who had rehearsed this many times. It took us years to find out. The embezzlement was orchestrated by the third partner, a man named Mei Xue, Mei Xue's father. Xiao Wan looked at the folder, at the pages, at the numbers, dates, signatures that were suddenly reorganizing 26 years of a story she thought she knew. Did my mother know? Not completely. She knew there was an injustice. She didn't know the size of it. And Mr. Ling Hao? Madame Ling hesitated for the first time. He found out a week ago, when Mei Xue's system logs revealed that she had accessed the historical files from the company's founding. She was trying to erase her father's tracks. Instead, she found them. Xiao Wan sat looking at her own hands. The fabric bag was hanging on the chair beside her. The same fabric bag she had always carried, because there had never been a reason for another one. There was an inheritance. There was a name. There was a third of a company worth more than she could calculate. And there was a 2-year-old girl who had grown up without a father because of a lie. What happens now? She asked, for the second time that week. But this time the question carried a different weight. That depends on you. Madame Ling closed the folder and pushed it entirely to Xiao Wan's side of the table. But what is right will happen, with or without your involvement. Outside the room, Mei Xue was walking down the hallway when Xiao Zhang, who had clearly been positioned there on purpose, said, loud enough for her to hear, "The meeting with the Chen family lawyers is confirmed for tomorrow morning." Mei Xue stopped. Xiao Zhang looked at her with an expression of absolute innocence. Mei Xue kept walking, but her stride had changed. Faster, less calculated. The calculation was falling apart. The message arrived at 11 at night. Xiao Wan, I need to talk to you. It's about your mother. Come to the Ling Group basement parking lot. Alone. Don't tell anyone. The number was unknown. Xiao Wan should have ignored it. Should have forwarded it to Ling Hao, to Xiao Zhang, to anyone. But the word mother had an effect she still hadn't learned to block. She went. The basement parking lot was empty at that hour. The fluorescent light on the ceiling flickered at regular intervals. Her footsteps echoed. Mei Xue was leaning against a car, tablet in hand, with an expression that had finally stopped pretending anything at all. You came. She didn't seem surprised. I always knew you were naive enough. What did you do to my mother? Nothing. Mei Xue showed her the tablet screen. Yet, on the screen, a live video. Mama Chen in the apartment, sitting in front of the television, completely unaware of what was happening. 2 men standing near the door. They are my father's private security. Mei Xue was direct. You sign these documents. She held up an envelope. Give up the Chen inheritance and your stake in the Ling group, and my mother spends the night in peace. Xiao Wan looked at the envelope, looked at the screen. You've lost your mind. I am protecting what is mine. Mei Xue's voice finally stopped being soft, and what lay beneath it was hard as stone. My father spent his entire life building this place. You are not going to appear out of nowhere with a dead man's surname and take everything. Your father stole from my father, and then killed him. Your father was weak. Mei Xue took a step forward. Sign. No. Xiao Wan. No, no, no. Xiao Wan's voice didn't tremble. Maybe I can't stop what you're planning right now, but I will not sign anything. Not now, not ever. Mei Xue opened the envelope. The parking lot light went out. It didn't flicker. It went out completely, and then came back on. Ling Hao was standing between them. He hadn't come running. He wasn't out of breath. He was just there, standing, as if he had planned to be in exactly that spot at exactly that moment. Because he had planned it. Xiao Zhang tracked the message. He didn't look at Mei Xue yet. He looked at Xiao Wan first. Are you okay? I am. Only then did he turn to Mei Xue. The men you positioned at Mama Chen's apartment were detained 12 minutes ago. His voice was absolutely flat. The police are there now. Mama Chen is fine and, according to Xiao Zhang's report, is making broth and complaining about the scare to the 3 neighbors. Mei Xue looked at him, at Xiao Wan, at him again. Ling Hao, you don't understand. Your father will answer for the crimes of 1998 alongside those of today. He made a slight gesture to the side. The police are waiting for you outside. You can't. Mei Xue. His voice finally hardened, not in volume, in weight. It's over. 2 police officers walked into the parking lot. Mei Xue looked at Xiao Wan one last time, with those eyes that were always calculating. But this time there was no more calculation. There was only defeat. She walked out between the 2 police officers with shoulders that could no longer hold themselves rigid. Xiao Wan watched until they disappeared up the ramp. Then she sat down on the parking lot floor. Simply sat down, with legs that suddenly had no more structure left to keep her standing. Ling Hao sat down beside her, on the floor, suit and all. You knew I would come, she said. It wasn't a question. I knew you would try to handle it alone, which is exactly what someone who defends everyone but herself would do. Xiao Wan looked at him. You have known me for less than a month. I listened to you for 2 hours and 17 minutes at 3 in the morning. A pause. I learned fast. She laughed. On the parking lot floor, after all of that, she laughed. And he sat there watching her laugh with an expression that had stopped being cold at some point that neither of them could name. The declaration happened on a Saturday afternoon. Not at a gala dinner. Not in a penthouse with a panoramic view. In Mama Chen's apartment. Because Ling Hao had shown up unannounced with 2 kilos of rice. And the expression of someone who had something to say, and had decided to say it without putting it off any longer. Mama Chen opened the door, looked at him, looked at the rice, and said, Come in. I'll make tea. Xiao Zhang stayed outside because someone had to, but positioned his ear at a distance he himself would have described as strategic. Ling Hao stood in the middle of the small living room, with the television still on the 5 o'clock drama, and said, Xiao Wan. She was sitting on the sofa. He was standing. There was a height disadvantage he had clearly not calculated. He sat down too, on the floor, facing her, because it was the only available spot. Mama Chen had taken the only chair so she could see both sides at the same time. I am not good at explaining what I feel. He said it as a fact, not an excuse. But at 3 in the morning on a day I can no longer remember without you in it. A person I didn't know called me by mistake and spent 2 hours telling me her entire life. And I didn't hang up. Pause. I never hang up calls. It's a rule. I hung up once on a call with the entire board of directors because there was a bad proposal, and I wasn't going to pretend it was good. What does that have to do with? It has to do with the fact that you are the only exception I have ever made by choice. Not out of obligation. By choice. He kept looking at her. You are my wife. What is there to be ashamed of in that? Xiao Wan blinked. You haven't proposed to me yet. I'm proposing now. It doesn't sound much like a proposal. Xiao Wan. He opened his hand. There was a ring. Simple, gold, without enormous stones. The kind a person chooses when they truly know the other. Will you marry me? Mama Chen let out a sound that can only be described as a fusion of crying, opera, and a boiling kettle. Mom, Xiao Wan said, without taking her eyes off Ling Hao. I am not crying. Mama Chen was clearly crying. It's dust. This apartment has so much dust. Outside, Xiao Zhang pulled his ear away from the wall just long enough to type into his phone, "Buy wedding gift tomorrow morning," and pressed his ear back against it. Xiao Wan looked at the ring, looked at him. You stayed awake at 3 in the morning because of me. Many times since then. You sat on the parking lot floor. Yes. You brought rice. 2 kilos. She took the ring, put it on her finger. She looked at him with that expression she used when she was trying not to show too much, but had already shown everything. Okay, she said. Ling Hao took her hand, said nothing more. He didn't need to. Mama Chen said she was going to get the tea, but stood frozen in the middle of the kitchen, sobbing quietly for about 3 minutes before she could get herself to move. 1 year later. The apartment was bigger. It had windows that looked out over the city, not the parking lot. But there was still a fabric bag hanging near the door. Xiao Wan had said it was habit, and Ling Hao had stopped trying to replace it with another. It was Saturday morning. Ling Hao was in the kitchen making coffee. He had learned, over the past year, that this was necessary for domestic peace. When he heard the sound, a small, insistent sound that was the only thing in the world capable of making the CEO of the Ling Group drop everything mid-task. He went to the bedroom. The baby was standing in her crib, gripping the bars, with an expression that was identical to Xiao Wan's when she disagreed with something and was determined to win. She was 6 months old and had already learned to use the look. "Good morning," he said. The baby looked at him as if she were evaluating the response. From the next room came the sound of slippers, and then Mama Chen appeared with her hair still tied up in her sleeping cap and the expression of a grandmother on permanent duty. I've got her, she said, walking past Ling Hao as if he weren't there. You make the coffee. I take care of Xiaobei. Everyone with their own talent. Ling Hao stood looking at his mother-in-law and his daughter for a moment, then went back to the kitchen. Xiao Wan appeared 5 minutes later, hair down and eyes still half closed, and stopped behind him, resting her head on his shoulder while he finished making the coffee. Your mother is here again, she said. She lives here. She lives upstairs. It's substantially the same thing. Xiao Wan laughed into his shoulder. He handed her the coffee. She took the first sip with that look he had spent the entire past year trying to memorize. The look of someone who hadn't expected to be this happy and was surprised to find herself there. Xiao Wan's voice over. Sometimes I think about that night. About the wrong number. About the 2 digits I switched without meaning to. About the 2 hours and 17 minutes that changed the address of everything. I could have hung up. He could have hung up. Neither of us did. I think some wrong things arrive at exactly the right time. Mama Chen walked into the kitchen with Xiaobei in her arms, who was clearly satisfied with the situation and showed it by clapping her little hands in the air. Anyone want broth? Mama Chen asked. It's 7 in the morning, Xiao Wan said. Broth has no schedule. Ling Hao looked at Xiao Wan. Xiao Wan looked at him. I want broth, they said at the same time. Mama Chen smiled with the satisfaction of someone who had won something important and went to turn on the stove.